of what their fathers were, because we all want to be better than our fathers. And I hope that my sons who watch this, and that, my son who sat here, that he takes good moral lessons from me, and he is a better version of me. And I hope that he is already showing signs that he's better than me. So inshallah, I pray and hope that he will become a fine man when he becomes an adult, and maybe me and him can have a healthy, fruitful relationship. And that's again taking lessons from the previous generations. And I think there's a lot of things that I learned from my father that I hope that I can pass forward to my sons. And we all want that. We all want what's best for our children. And I think there's no father out there that wants anything not good for his sons or his daughters. But I think the father and son relationship is an interesting one, because men are men, and sometimes we struggle with the way we express ourselves and how we communicate with each other. And maybe in the Asian subcontinent, maybe it's a common thing that our fathers have been fathered a certain way, so they expect their sons to be obedient to them as they were obedient to their fathers. And the unfortunate thing is, being raised in this culture, in this society, it does give us, sometimes if we abandon Islam, it does give us an ethical and moral compass that is not according to what the traditional kind of blueprint is that our parents had. They valued respect a lot more. They valued the elder community a lot more, and I think that's a lesson that we can learn from that generation, because sometimes we think that we are on an equal platform, but we are not, because our elders, they should be honored, and they should be dignified and respected. And sometimes we need to swallow our prides and our ego, and understand that we are only here because of them. And I look back, and sometimes I might complain of my father's shortcoming, but I also need to recognize of the good that he did, and the good that he brought to us, and the hard work that he did. Because of the hard work that he did and the industries that he worked in, we benefit from that. I am now sat at home, working from home, in an industry, in a sector that is probably not as demanding as the work that he had to do. So we should take count of that and stock of that, and understand that's an important lesson for us to take. So inshallah, I hope that you can gain from this little message of mine, and I hope that maybe it's an opportunity for us all to reflect and think about the relationships we have with our parents, be that our fathers or our mothers, and maybe we need to invest and look at what can we do to enhance that relationship. There's many opportunities for us all the time, and just as much as we invest in our children and our wives and our families, we need to invest in our parents. And some people might invest more in their parents and less on their families, and this is something you have to juggle as an individual. And I think based upon the reality of your situation and your lifestyle, you have to slot times in for your family members and give them that due respect. But that was an interesting kind of experience for me that I thought I'd like to share with you all, inshallah, and I hope that some benefit comes from that. So inshallah, I will take a short little break there on that point, and be back with some further conversation, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Radio Apnea Wars. This is your Sunday afternoon show with your host, Brother Abu Musa. And just before the short little ad break, I was talking about my personal experiences, just a quick bit of reflections for you all to maybe take a lesson from. I hope that it was useful for you, and I hope that you're not like me, and you are better than me, no doubt, in your conduct towards your family members. But obviously, this is an ongoing process that we must fulfill throughout life, and I hope that I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that there will come a time where my parents will be pleased with me, as and hopefully that I can fulfill those obligations when the time comes, as my father did for his father and for his mother that he's doing currently. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for our parents and for the elders in our communities, because they have a struggle in the society. It's very hard, especially those that have come from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, those areas, and they've migrated over here. They were the first generation that came here, and we, as I always say, as beneficiaries of their hard work, and of the work that they did to establish the societies that they have and the communities that they've built today. And we, inshallah, we should carry this forth and carry on building this so our children will continue this legacy for us. And it's important to, as Muslims, that we have a vision for our communities. We are not just here as passers-by, as just to accumulate what we can for ourselves and for our families, but we need to think about the legacies that we want to leave as parents, as individuals, as community members, as Muslims, because Islam gives us a very clear focus in life, and if we don't extract that focus and embed it into our lifestyle, then we will live for ourselves. We will become very individualistic in our outlook and our conduct, and that's what we don't want to do. We want to be of those that can please Allah and can fulfill the work that Allah has designated for us in this dunya. And of course, we are all facing very challenging times now, so we need to raise our game and raise our bar a lot higher now to understand that, you know, our next generation will have challenges, and we need to prepare them as much as we can. So anyway, from that conversation, I'm going to move to my next conversation, which is an interesting one, because I was driving the other day, as I was previously. I was driving my car the other day, and I like to listen to the radio, hence I'm on radio today. And I was listening to a conversation. It was like a science kind of program, and they were talking about the idea of look. Is look something? What is look? You know, they were talking about it from the scientific Western perspective of look, and how they can translate look, and how they view look. And just to give you a bit of a quick kind of like synopsis of some of the thinking that they had, and obviously what I wanted to do here was to kind of give you a stark reminder of how, as Muslims, we view this concept. We don't believe in an idea of a look. Things don't just happen randomly. We recognize that. So modern science doesn't see look as a mystical or supernatural force. Instead, it studies it as a human perception of probability, randomness, and personal agency. How we interpret chance events and how our mindset influences outcomes. So according to them, you know, this concept of laws of attraction is a manifestation of things. It's about you manifesting the situation. It doesn't just happen. There's no divine intervention here. So they don't, because obviously they don't believe in the existence of Allah. So why would Allah decree something for us? It's pure randomness and probability that they look. So they don't really have a real rational explanation. They just put some ideas together and say to you that, oh, by chance you happen to, you know, acquire this wealth. You know, it's just so happened randomly that this member of the family has assigned it to you. It's got nothing to do with your rizq, your sustenance. It's got nothing to do with the fact that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you as a human being, He also ordained for you what your sustenance will be throughout your lifetime. They don't attach anything to that. It's just pure randomness and a probability that you happen to be related to this person, and this person happened to have a good relationship with you, and as a result of that relationship, he's given you this wealth, or she has given you this wealth. This is the kind of mentality that they have and how they explain it. So I'm going to go into a bit more detail here and give you a breakdown of how science explains look. And then we'll look at Islam and how Islam explains look. It's an interesting conversation, really, because if you haven't thought about this, you know, sometimes we fall into that trap and say, oh, how lucky I am, without even realizing that look's got nothing to do with it. You know, it's by the decree of Allah, by the divine intervention of Allah, that this thing has happened. It's not randomness. It's not a probability. And that's important for us to understand that, because we can throw this word around that he's lucky, she's lucky. No, we don't believe in luck. So researchers like Richard Wiseman, author of The Luck Factor, found that the so-called lucky people aren't simply more fortunate, they think and behave differently. According to this individual, the lucky person is very unique. They are very different. His studies show that lucky people tend to, so obviously he studied random lucky people and put together all the traits, all the attributes, characteristics about these individuals. His study shows that lucky people tend to notice more opportunities because they are open-minded and observant, take more chances, increasing their probability of success, have positive expectations, which encourage persistent and confidence, use resilience to turn bad situations into beneficial outcomes. Okay, that's interesting. Scientific takeaway. What we call luck often comes from psychological traits that increase the likelihood of good outcomes: optimism, social openness, and adaptability. Now we can look at the lives of the Prophet and all the other prophets, because they all came with challenges and they all came with hardships. But it was their optimism, it was their belief in Allah, it was their sabr, it was their conviction that their purpose in life was greater than the obstacles that they faced. And they knew through struggle and perseverance that they would achieve something positive out of that. This way, this individual is describing it completely different to how we would look at it. So, okay, let's move on to the next area here. So, statistical explanation. Luck as probability. From a mathematical view, luck is simply random choice. Okay, if one out of 1,000 people win a lottery, someone inevitably will, according to this logic, and that person will feel lucky. However, random events don't have memory or intention, they just happen. So randomly things happen. Just like the universe, just like the stars in the sky, just like how the planets, rotate around the moon. These are random. They don't just happen. They're not managed and regulated by a creator. Neuroscientific view, the brain and pattern seeking. So according to the science, the brain is wired to find patterns, causation, even in randomness, called, I'm not going to try to pronounce that word because I'll probably mess up. That's why people see signs, coincidences, or omens. The brain connects unrelated dots. Neuroscientists, let me just go back there. That's why people see signs, coincidences, or omens. The brain connects unrelated dots. Look, if you've got no purpose in life, if you don't understand life, if you have no previous information about life, then of course everything's random. Everything is just a collection of things, and you're trying to work this out and navigate yourself through life. But we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created the universe, created man, created life, He left many, many lessons for us. He sent prophets to communicate the message of Islam, the purpose of life. The lives of the prophets are blueprints for things happening and why things happen, why there's challenges, why there's obstacles, why these things don't randomly happen, but they are there to develop our character and patience, and to also seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a completely different kind of way of thinking. Neuroscientists link this to how the dopamine system rewards us for noticing potential connections, even false ones. Scientific takeaway. Feeling lucky often stems from how the brain interprets coincidences and rewards pattern recognition. So coincidences. Is it a coincidence that we meet somebody? Is it a coincidence that something happens in our day that sets us in a certain way? We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's always challenging, He's always testing the believer. So when Allah sends a person in your life on a particular day, and you randomly, according to science, you bump into them, there's a purpose behind that interaction. Maybe Allah is reminding you of something. We don't believe in randomness. We don't believe in coincidences. We don't believe in just things happening. We believe that everything has a purpose. That any and every interaction that we have. How many times have you woke up on a day and you've gone out and all of a sudden, randomly, you bumped into somebody that you haven't seen for years? Now, the Western scientists would say, this is just pure probability and randomness, or maybe you've kind of manifested this in your brain because your brain has somehow kind of created this thought process about this individual, or you've been thinking about this thing and it's manifested in your life. We don't look at it like that. And I'm going to go to that point. I'm going to explain that, how Islam views that. So sociological and environmental factors. Science also shows that where and how you live affects your luck. Okay, this is interesting. Access to education, health, stable families, supportive networks increases the chance of success. People from unstable or poor environments often face more bad luck, but it is often systemic and not random. Okay, fair point. Our environments do affect us, there's no doubt about that. But we have a choice. We can move out of those environments. But sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us on this earth as an example. So by using this logic, we can look at the world today and say, look at what's going on in Gaza. Look what's going on in Sudan. Look what's going on in Afghanistan. Look what's going on in other parts of the third world. And we can say, oh, well, you just got the bad card was drawn for you when you were born. You just unfortunately was designated to that reality. But we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left many signs on this earth, and people's lives are examples to us sometimes of the miracle of Allah, and the reminder that Allah is the one who is the sustainer and He is the provider. And of course, realities are that we can influence and change some of these environments. I mean, again, we can change who we associate with, who we socialize with. If we're not happy with the current state, we can work our ways out of this economic kind of trap that we are in. If we are struggling, we try to educate ourselves further. We try to improve our career prospects by educating ourselves, developing new skills. These are all within our control. So going further into this, quantum and chaos theories, fringe but fascinating. Some scientists and philosophers play with the idea that tiny random events like quantum fluctuations or butterfly effects dynamics can influence large-scale outcomes over time. A reminder that the universe itself has randomness built in it. Scientific takeaway, again here at the deepest level, randomness is part of nature. No, randomness is not part of nature. Nature did not come by randomness. We don't believe completely in the Big Bang Theory that everything, chaos created perfection. It goes against reality. It goes against anything, I can't say that this studio that I'm sat in has just come by randomness, that these attachments, these technical, the studio with all this technical kind of setup here has just come by mere randomness. No, of course, it was organized, it was orchestrated, it was designed, it was planned. Somebody came in here, built things, put things together. Electronical devices were circuit boards were put together to create sound, to create etc. and etc. So all of the buttons that I have here, all of the functions that I have here in the studio, they don't just randomly appeared here. The microphone wasn't just here randomly. It was positioned here. The seats, my positioning, the camera operation behind the scenes, it's all not randomly done, but it's organized and managed and regulated. Let's move forward now. Let's look at Islam. Let's look at how we view this whole issue. So again, the first point is there's no such thing as random fortune. Nothing just happens. In Islam, there's no concept of luck, as I was highlighting to you, or chance, or as something independent of Allah's will. So we say everything that happens by a decree of Allah. So how can randomness just occur? How can things just occur by their own choice? Everything that happens